Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel for my January reading wrap-up video. Now you might be surprised to see another reading bullet journal video so soon after a couple weeks ago on my channel. Well, I actually made a goal for myself in 2024 to create more reading content and more reading journal content on my channel, because I always told myself, and I told you guys this all the time too, although I occasionally made reading journal videos for the past couple years to mostly give you guys inspiration but stuff like that, I never actually had a reading journal for myself because I made the excuse I never actually had time. And while that's still technically true, I felt like I was being a little stupid, because if I'm filming something for content, I'm technically knocking out two birds with one stone. So while I actually don't have a reading journal, like a separate journal, I'm going to be making a couple spreads at the end of every monthly setup about the books that I read and a reading journal summary of that month. And hopefully if you guys like this type of content, then I'll be posting it every month as well. So let me know in the comments if you're excited about this new series that I'm starting. Hopefully it will be a permanent one, but I'm super excited because it means that I get to talk about the books that I read and the books that I love, and I get to recommend to you guys those books as well. A few disclaimers before we get into this video. So number one, my AC is being so dang loud today for absolutely no reason. I'll do as much as I can in post-production, but if you guys can hear the AC being super loud, my apologies. And secondly, another problem I had while filming was the lighting. So I actually use natural lighting completely when I film on a desk next to a window. So for some reason today, the lighting outside was super cloudy, but the sun kept coming in and out a lot. So sometimes the lighting is super dim, sometimes it's super bright and kind of exposed. I'll try to edit it as much as I can, like I said, but it'll just be inconsistent. But you know what? We just gotta roll with the punches. It's not a huge deal. I hope you guys don't mind. So if you are a reading person, you and I are gonna be best friends, because I want to talk about all the books that I read in January 2024. Okay, so the first book that I read this month was Magnolia Parks, which is the first book in the Magnolia Parks series by Jessa Hastings. And for all these, I'm gonna read a quick summary so that you guys get the professional summary of what these books are about. So Magnolia Parks. She is a beautiful, affluent, self-involved, and mildly neurotic London socialite. He is Britain's most photographed bad boy who broke her heart. But Magnolia Parks and BJ Ballantyne are meant to be, and everyone knows it. They're in the stars, suspended in a strange kind of love that looks like hurting each other a lot of the time. As the cracks start to show and secrets begin to surface, Magnolia and BJ are finally forced to face the formidable question they've been avoiding all their lives. How many loves do you really get in a lifetime? Okay, so this book is basically drama, and I'm honestly here for it. Sometimes I want to read the book that's like intelligent, intellectual, and makes you think about something. And trust me, we'll get to those books later in this month, I swear. But for this one, I was just here for the vibes. I was here for the drama. I was here for the mess. I was here for, like I said, the drama. If you don't know me, I like reality TV. And so this book was like watching reality TV, but in book format. Not to say that that makes it cheap or bad. I loved this book. In fact, I gave it 4 stars. And ironically, I also gave every other book that I read this month 4 stars. I didn't actually realize that until I was filming this video and looking at all my stats and realized I just read a lot of really good books this month. But anyway, just to sum up that book, Magnolia Parks, main characters BJ and Magnolia used to date, and they're technically not dating anymore, but they still obviously have a lot of feelings for each other. They're in a big friend group in London. They're all rich, like rich, like wears Prada, has a private jet, like all of them are. And it's honestly super entertaining. The relationship between them is toxic, but I think it's very clear that it's like not an ideal relationship. Like the author is not at all trying to like disguise it as something romantic and cute. Like it's very not healthy. But it brings a lot of like discussion about like working on your relationship and, you know, red flags, but also it talks about like soulmates and how many loves you get in a lifetime. Like I said, it's a mess, it's drama. Definitely do not want a relationship for myself like the two of them have. However, I was here for the entertainment. I was here to have a good time, and it really is at some parts like super emotional. Like you really draw into the characters and you really feel for them. So I'm very excited to read the rest of the series. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but if the book sounds interesting, I definitely would recommend it. Check the trigger warnings. Honestly, check the trigger warnings for any book that I ever read. There are always a lot of crazy things in the books, but I definitely still recommend it, and I really like Magnolia Parks. After I read Magnolia Parks, I decided to reread a series that I actually read in January of last year, and it's a series by St. Abbey. The author has now passed away, so rest in peace to her, but her books are crazy but amazing in the best way possible, if that makes sense. So this series by St. Abbey could technically be read as one big book. It's like a 5-part novella series, but each part is like 130 pages. So I've seen it sold as one like large book together. I've also seen it sold separately. That's funny, like each thing sold separately, whatever. But I read them and count them as separate books because they're each like their own little novella. So this is kind of a crazy series, I'm not gonna lie. It's a mix between a thriller and a romance. So basically there is this female serial killer. Yeah, take it in. I never said my books had a great moral compass, did I? Female serial killer who was wronged in her past, and then she falls in love with none other but the FBI agent who is working on her case. Come on. Okay, so the summary says, Lana, I didn't expect him. I didn't want to fall in love, but I can't let go. Logan Bennett makes the world a safer place. He is brilliant. He's a hero. He locks away the sick and depraved. But while he's saving lives, I'm taking them. 10 years ago, they took from me. Now I'm taking from them. Revenge is best served cold. They never see me coming until I paint their walls red. So, kind of insane. This is one that you definitely 100% have to check the trigger warnings for. It's very crazy. But it's also like the way that she writes this character, because of what she went through in the past, it makes you feel for her as a character and makes you support her even if she does crazy things. And also Logan, who is the FBI agent, and the people that work for him. It's a very well done story. And also I think what's good about it is it's very short. Like I said, there are 5 novellas. They're all 130 pages, but the amount of character development, even in like just the first book, like you really like understand the characters, understand the story in such a short amount of time. Like it's incredibly well written. And if she wrote anything else, then I would have loved to read the rest of her backlist, because just really good. So this series, like I said, I only read the first 3 books in this series, which are The Risk, Sidetracked, and Scarlet Angel. I read all 5 last year. I just wanted to like reread a couple this year, just to, get me back into reading. It's a series that I already know, so it's not hard to jump back into. And like I said, they are all 4 stars individually. However, as a whole, I would call it like a 5-star series for me. Like this is absolutely top-notch fantastic. Because they're all really short, I can't give them all 5 stars individually. Something about it is just missing a teensy bit as much as I love them. So they're all 4 stars, but as a whole, I'd rank it a 5-star series. It's just very good. Okay, I'm gonna pause me talking about books for just a second because I want to talk about the stats that I read this month. So as you can see on this page that I'm making here, I read 5 books this month, which is okay. I wish I could read more because the books I read, like I said, the novellas were pretty short. However, like I said, I had a little break, so it's fine. I'm working towards my reading goal of the year, which is 50 books in a year. As you can see on the right, I have a little reading challenge update. So because I read 5 books, I'm 10% of the way through my book goal. However, I'm only 6% of the way through my pages goal, and that is 18,000 books this year. On the left, you can see that I read 1,040 pages. So okay, but I'd like to do better, and hopefully next month I'll be able to read more. My average rating was 4 stars flat because, like I said, every book that I read this month was 4 stars. Not purposefully, but it just so happened to turn out that way. Not mad at it. Like I said, 4 stars is a great rating. I tend to be pretty picky with my 5 stars. Like I only read a couple 5 stars each year, and they really have to blow me out of the water for it to be 5 stars. So having every book that I read this month be 4 stars is pretty dang good if you ask me. Like that's really impressive. As far as the pie chart at the bottom, so this is one that I got off of Storygraph. If you don't follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph, you definitely should. They're always linked in my description boxes, but these are 2 apps that I use to track my reading, specifically my reading challenges and also like statistics throughout the year. So Storygraph itself has a lot of really cool statistics that track the books that you're reading. So I used their pie chart that they gave me and basically just copied it in this page for all of my moods in my books. Now, this is not super uncommon, but I tend to read not super light, happy, fluffy books all the time. I like to read a lot of emotional, deep, sad books. All that to say, my top moods for this month were tense, mystery, emotional, dark, sad, and adventure. So, at least we ended with one book that was kind of adventurous, but most of them are sad, tense, mysterious. Hopefully next month I'll be able to read a little bit, maybe some contemporary romance. Maybe I need a fluffy, happy romance to kind of balance myself out for February, especially since it's like the month of love. Maybe I should not read serial killer romances, and maybe I should really just lean into, little coffee shop meet cutes. Maybe this is something I need to focus on for next month. I'll speak more at the end about my February TBR, but lastly, let's talk about my final book that I read this month of January, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Now, I actually started this book back in December, like December 10th-ish. I was going through a little audiobooks phase, and so I found this book on audiobook, and it's been a book that I've been wanting to read for a long time, but just haven't gotten around to actually purchasing it. So since I saw it on audiobook, I picked it up and started listening to it. The audiobook is phenomenal, by the way. I've only listened to like 3 audiobooks in my life before, but I can just tell that this one is very good. So I would definitely recommend the audiobook for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Very well performed. But anyway, because I read it in December, I actually went home from college. So after my drive home, I hadn't picked up an audiobook for literally a month because while I was at home, I was doing things. It was Christmas, it was the holidays. I didn't have time to sit and listen to an audiobook like I do now in college. When I came back to Dallas, I had time to finish this book. So I finished the audiobook, finished listening to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and let me tell you, this book is phenomenal, okay? Phenomenal. Here's the synopsis for the book. So France, 1714. In a moment of desperation, a young woman makes a Faustian bargain to live forever and is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. Thus begins the extraordinary life of Addie LaRue, a dazzling adventure that will play out across centuries and continents, across history and art, as the young woman learns how far she will go to leave her mark on the world. But everything changes when, after nearly 300 years, Addie stumbles across a young man in a hidden bookstore and he remembers her name. This concept by V.E. Schwab, oh my gosh, I would love to meet this author. She is absolutely genius. Like, this concept is genius. So a woman in 1714 makes a deal with basically the devil or like a demon to live forever, but the curse is that no one remembers her. So she goes through years and years, like 3 centuries of life, but every time that she meets someone, after they look away and they see her again, they don't remember who she is, her name, their interactions, anything. Terribly sad, but it like really is a great like thought-provoking book about like morality and wanting to live forever. Like, it's crazy. I told you guys I'd, balance out the crazy serial killer and happy fluffy books with something more thought-provoking and serious, didn't I? And this is definitely that one for this month. The characters were so good, so good. The main characters, I love all of them. My heart goes out to all of them. They all have such deep trauma in their lives, but like, it hurts to read about. I'm literally sitting here on the ground of my closet filming this with chills. Like, oh my goodness gracious. And also, okay, one plot twist was spoiled for me because, like I said, I took a month off of this book, so I had plenty of time to unfortunately have the internet spoil me. And so one plot twist unfortunately was spoiled, and I do hate that. So I was kind of expecting what happened at the end to happen. Part of me thinks that I would have already guessed it, because I'm pretty good at guessing plot twists every now and then because I do read quite a lot. Part of me thinks that I would have been able to guess it anyway. Nevertheless, that one was unfortunate. However, the ending, because of that plot twist, I was expecting a much different, a much sadder ending. And so although the ending was still really sad and that makes a lot of people cry, I was honestly expecting something worse than what actually happened, and I was actually very, very happy with the ending because it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think my favorite character, ironically, is like the demon, the devil, Luke, in that book. Oh my goodness, his character arc, it's so intriguing to think about. And like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything in this video. I want to make sure I'm recommending books to you guys that way you guys can actually like read them if you're interested and I don't have to go in with spoilers. But let me just say, Luke intrigues me. He is such an interesting character, especially a plot twist that happens at the very, very end. So interesting. And I think this author, V.E. Schwab, is genius, not only for the characters, but also for her prose. Her writing is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's just so emotional, so many metaphors. It's just such a beautiful writing. And if I ever write a book one day, which is a goal of mine, I don't know what type of book or when, but I do want to write a book at one point in my life. But I hope that I can write just like her, because her writing is just like breathtakingly like beautiful and just makes you think. She looks at the world in a very different way, and it's just honestly very inspiring. So phenomenal book. The only reason it's 4 stars and not 5 is because it is a little slow. It's a little long. There are sections in the middle that you kind of wish could be sped up or like cut out. And it also is a dual timeline. Sometimes it would flash back in time and I'd just be like, no, I don't want to listen to this. I want to go back to the present time with my favorite characters. But it had to be done. It's very necessary. And when I tell you, it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. So 100% recommend. Check the trigger warnings. Again, it's very sad, but 4 stars. I loved it. All right, so now let's talk about the books that I'm currently reading. So I'm currently reading 2 books. The first book is the second book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, House of Sky and Breath. And I read the first book a couple months ago and gave it 5 stars. I love Sarah J. Maas. She writes epic fantasy so well. Now listen, these books are bricks, okay? They are 800-page books each, and there are going to be 3 in this trilogy. But I read her entire backlist. I read the entire Ekotar series and the Throne of Glass series back in 2020. Loved them. Ekotar for me is like a 3.5, 4-star series now. It kind of grew on me to be a little cringy. However, Throne of Glass, like absolute favorite fantasy series of all time, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Crescent City. So all that to say, Crescent City is her adult romance fantasy series. Very thick, very complex, and it's actually more like urban fantasy. It's not like in the past, it's more like in the present time. So there's still magic and vampires and fae and everything, but it's just set in a more modern world. And the first book was a lot of mystery and romance put together, so really, really interesting. Something I've never seen from Sarah J. Maas before, but I'm very excited about it. The other book that I'm reading right now is actually, ironically, a textbook for school. I'm reading plenty of textbooks for university right now, but I'm reading a nonfiction book called Why? Explaining the Holocaust. And this is a book that I'm reading in English because my English class right now is focusing on the Holocaust, and it is actually very interesting. This book intrigues me because I am very interested in World War II and the Holocaust. It's an incredibly sad period in the world, obviously, but it's something that I think we really need to learn about and be educated on, that way we don't have to let something like that happen again again. And also it's something that is just very intriguing to me. So it's really more like a book than a textbook. Like, it's very small, 300 pages, I think, and very interesting. I've only read the first chapter so far, but it's just very in-depth and really informative. Like, the first chapter talks about anti-Semitism, and it goes back to like religious times in like the 4th century and beyond, like earlier, and then comes up to the 1900s, and it's just very well researched, very well thought out. My professor knows the author and knows him very well, so she recommends this book. And so this is going to be one of my 50 books of the year, because unlike most textbooks that, they don't lie, we all skim a little bit, okay? This is an actual book that I'm going to be reading cover to cover. So those are the 2 books that I'm reading right now, but we'll see by the end of February what books that I get into and dip my toes into during the next month, and what kind of genres I get to. Like I said, hopefully I can indulge myself in a fluffy romance to kind of, level out all of the dark, heavy books that I read this past month. But if we're being honest, that's probably not going to be the case. I hope you guys loved this video, honestly, because I loved filming it, I loved making this, and I really want to make this a monthly thing where I do monthly reading wrap-ups, because I love talking about books, and I feel like this reading journal like section of the journaling niche is something that I really want to get into. Leave a book emoji in the comments below if you enjoyed this video and want to see more of these types from me, and also let me know if you've read any of the books I mentioned in this video, or if you want to, or what you've been reading, or if you have any good recommendations for me. If you guys couldn't tell, my favorite genre is romance, followed by fantasy, and also sometimes like literary or contemporary fiction. So yeah, I've been talking for a long time. So with that being said, I'm wishing you guys the most amazing month. Subscribe as always for weekly bullet journaling and reading journaling content, and I will see you guys next week.